The Arcturians recalibrated your path overnight. Pay close attention. You felt it first as a silence, not the ordinary kind, but a hush that moved through your chest and wrapped the edges of your day. Money that once arrived on a rhythm you trusted stuttered. Opportunities that used to land with predictable friction simply folded away. Your phone didn't buzz the way it used to. The mind named this silence failure. The mind called it bad timing, bad luck, a door closed. We are here to tell you another truth. That silence was the signal of a recalibration, and you were chosen to receive it now. We, the council that monitors these shifts, confirm what is happening in your field. You did not slip from grace. You did not break a rule. Something in you rose, and as you rose, compatibility with the old channels diminished. Picture a tuning fork. When you change pitch, some notes no longer resonate. The systems that rewarded a certain form of hustle, the measures that equated motion with worth, could not match your new frequency. To prevent the old loops from simply repeating themselves with new energy attached, the flow paused. That pause is not punishment, it is a safeguard. Listen, when your frequency changed, everything else had to catch up. This is not a narrative of lack, it is the anatomy of emergence. What appears like a freeze is in fact a folding in. Energy compresses first, then aligns, and finally moves in a new trajectory. We name this process plainly because you need a language that steadies you in moments when the mind invents calamity to feel safe again. Compression, alignment, movement. Say it quietly in your mind until the cadence settles. Compression, alignment, movement. Compression is when your field draws inward. Imagine the shoreline at low tide. The waves pull away and the seabed is exposed. The world interprets the retreat as emptiness. You must learn to interpret it as concentration. During compression, the system refuses to pour into channels that will only rehearse old patterns of scarcity or compulsive proving. It is a protective constriction. It feels heavy because you are used to momentum. The nervous system, conditioned to equate motion with security, protests. Panic is often the reflex. Act now, fix it now, move, move. That reflex is a survival habit. It is not guidance for this phase. Within compression, there is an intelligence. The intelligence weighs what would arrive if the old patterns continued, and it says, not this. It will not allow flow to resume into ways that would tether you to the compulsory proving that you are loosening away from. That refusal is sacred. It is an energetic quarantine. Do not be ashamed of it. Do not call it failure. Call it discernment. Alignment is slower. It is the time when your internal landscape learns to hold the new frequency. The nervous system is developing capacity to receive. Think of a cup being tempered to hold hot tea. Until it can handle the temperature without cracking, you cannot pour. Alignment is the tempering. You will notice internal signs. The breath changes. There is less reactivity to small shocks. Your sense of self feels more spacious and less invested in immediate outcomes. You are learning to become a vessel rather than a frantic producer of motion. Movement will come only when the channels are coherent with you. Movement in this new cycle does not look like the old flurry. It arrives with precision and an ease that the old you might have mistaken for inaction. It arrives in the form of offers that match your inner yes, not the ones that require you to re-enter a worn-out identity. Movement will feel like recognition, not rescue. Throughout this, understand the essential distinction between motion and coherence. Motion is the mind's default. It wants to be seen doing something in order to feel secure. Coherence is the field speaking in a way that does not need to be defended. Motion produces noise. Coherence produces signal. When your frequency elevated, the noisy channels could not interpret your signal. The pause is the field dissolving noise so that only true matches will remain. We watched you step up in frequency before you knew how to accept it. That leap created a temporary incompatibility. The old systems, the jobs, the familiar clients, the tried and true contracts were calibrated to the version of you who negotiated through proving and exhaustion. You are not that person anymore. The freeze kept those systems from reattaching to a version of you that has outgrown them. In other words, flow stopped in order to prevent a false flow that would only re-entrench previous scarcity patterns. You might be thinking, does this mean money will come or not? We do not make absolute promises about material timelines. We will not tell you that funds are guaranteed within a week or that a particular bank account will swell tomorrow. What we confirm is this: your field is being stabilized. That stabilization increases the probability that new channels, ones that honor your revised frequency and capacity, will open. The universe will not manufacture illusions just to soothe panic. Instead, it prepares real openings that are compatible with your coherence. Right now, practical posture matters more than frantic strategy. There is a posture the field requires. Hold stillness, refuse panic chasing, witness the signal. When you feel the reflex to chase, name it. Say to yourself, "This is motion. I am choosing to witness." That simple naming does not absolve you of earthly responsibilities. Pay your bills, take the calls you must take, make sensible decisions, but refuse to let the reflex of frantic proving drive your decisions. There is a subtle difference between responsible action and compulsive motion. Learn to tell them apart. Watch for the inner yes. The inner yes is not a loud proclamation. It is a soft, embodied recognition that something aligns. It feels like a settling in the belly, a quiet warmth behind the sternum, a relaxed certainty that does not depend on external validation. Offers that carry this internal yes will feel precise, even if modest. Offers that require you to revert to tactics that once kept you safe but left you exhausted will lack that inner chord. Over time, you will notice that old strategies, even if they appear lucrative, feel hollow. You will find you cannot stomach them the way you once did. That is confirmation of recalibration. There are 3 practical signals we want you to watch for now. Clear, repeatable markers that the recalibration is moving from compression into alignment and toward movement. First, a rising inner calm. This does not mean the storms stop. It means you are less hijacked by them. You may still experience waves of anxiety, but the overall baseline quiets. Where once you felt frantic urgency, you now feel patient presence. The difference is not instantaneous. It is a gradual settling as your nervous system learns new rhythms. Second, the lack of desire to return to old ways. Opportunities that would have once lit you up now feel like a misfit. You might feel a physical contraction at the thought of stepping back into a job role, a pattern, or a relationship that once defined you. That contraction is a gift. It reveals that you are no longer energetically aligned to what proved you before. Honor that contraction. It is a compass. Third, offers feel precise. They are not more numerous necessarily, but they are more specific, and they align with your inner calendar, with the new tempo emerging inside you. These offers are quieter but more exacting. They pass a test of coherence. They do not require you to perform to be accepted. They invite integration rather than extraction. Do not mistake these signs for guarantees. They are indicators of alignment, not contractual promises. As you recognize them, you will learn to lean into discernment. Discernment is your new muscle. Cultivate it by small experiments. When an offer arrives, pause, breathe, bring the question inward. Does my body answer with a yes or a recoil? The body is wiser than the anxious mind. Train this discernment slowly. It will prevent you from re-entering old loops that only masquerade as progress. There are behaviors that undermine the recalibration. Notice them and refuse them with tenderness. One common reflex is to recreate motion by generating noise, undergoing countless small transactions, taking on quick gigs that require proving, or overexposing on platforms to manufacture attention. These acts might create temporary flow, but they often land back into an old identity and fragment the field. Another reflex is bargaining with the silence, telling the universe you will prove yourself if only the money returns. Bargaining keeps you in the architecture of scarcity. Neither noise nor bargaining supports the new coherence. Instead, choose practices that increase your capacity to receive. These are not exotic rituals. They are simple, deliberate rewirings of attention. Sleep more when your system needs it. Reduce compulsive scrolling that feeds the mind's need for proof. Hold one steady boundary today, a small, sacred no. This could mean declining a project that feels misaligned or postponing an impulsive purchase that would stress you. Boundaries refine your field. They teach the world how to meet your new frequency. You may be worried, what if people judge me for doing less? The old economy rewards visible hustle. This new calibration will require you to be less legible to those who measure worth by output. That is expected. As your frequency shifts, some relationships may tilt. That is not failure, it is selection. The recalibration chooses for you by making certain channels unattractive and certain offers irresistible. Remember, the field is protective. It will not allow you to step back into patterns that would re-enslave you to compulsion. There is a sacred logic operating in the freeze. It prevents the reattachment of uncertainty to new energy. If new flow were allowed to attach to the same anxiety that kept you small, the system would simply recreate scarcity with more glitter. The pause prevents that. It says, not yet. Wait until the vessel can hold the new current without leaking old fear into it. Here are ways to steward this phase without attempting to force movement prematurely. First, create micro-practices of presence. When anxiety rises, anchor with 3 even breaths into the diaphragm. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale. This signals your nervous system to downshift. Second, practice small acts of radical refusal to chase. When you feel the tug to send another proposal, to hustle for affirmation, take a 5-minute check-in with your body. If the body is calm, proceed. If the body is in contraction, postpone until alignment returns. Third, cultivate clarity of intent. Clarity is not an itemized plan. It is a steady orientation toward what you are willing to accept. Make a short list composed of values rather than goals. Integrity, ease, sustainability. Let these values act as filters for any opportunity. You are being stabilized. We say this not as a slogan, but as present fact. The fields around you have begun to lock certain frequencies in place. That lock is not a cage. It is a safeguard. It prevents dilution. It ensures that when movement resumes, it will come into channels that are consistent with the integrity you now prioritize. The lock also produces friction. You may feel the ache of doors closing. That ache is the necessary compost for emergence. Grieve what you must. Grief is a respectful response to the loss of an old version of yourself that once kept you safe. Allow it. Do not rush your mourning. The field respects a genuine process. Some of you will experience what appears as small reversals during this phase. An old client may reappear, an intermittent payment may come through, or a short contract may be offered. These are not failures of the recalibration, they are tests of alignment. Before you accept, ask, does this support my coherent field, or does it merely stitch me back into a pattern I am leaving behind? The tiniest discomfort is often the clearest answer. Remember, the field will propose only what your nervous system can eventually hold comfortably. If the offer requires you to revert to stress as a currency, it is likely not the right match. We do not ask you to be passive, we ask you to be discriminating. Many well-meaning teachers confuse activity with receptivity. True reception often requires the discipline of restraint. It is not that you do nothing, it is that you choose actions that preserve coherence. Think of your days as curated exhibitions. Every act you take should either increase your capacity to receive or maintain the field's stability. Actions that merely create motion for visibility's sake are cosmetic. They are not investment in your future form. A common question arrives now. How will I know when movement is truly here? There are thresholds. Movement begins when offers arrive that align with your circumstances and inner calendar, and they do so with relative ease. They feel like recognition and they fit naturally into your life rather than requiring a reinvention of who you are. Your nervous system will no longer interpret these offers as rescue. They will feel integrative. Another threshold is the formation of small, reliable patterns of receiving, a steady drip that does not demand you perform yourself into existence. When you can accept without immediate evidence and your baseline calm remains, that indicates movement is unfolding. We also want to name a common misstep: premature amplification. When a small success arrives, many respond by accelerating into the old mode of proving. This is when false flows are most likely to stick. The energy rushes to solidify a narrative. See, you are back. You can relax now. Resist this compulsion. Instead, test the offer against your 3 filters. Does it maintain coherence? Does it honor your nervous system? Does it align with your values? If the answer is yes, receive. If it is ambiguous, let it exist in an interim state until clarity arrives. If you are struggling with fear that the recalibration might mean permanent loss, listen to this carefully. The change is irreversible in the sense that you will not be able to inhabit the exact same energetic architecture you left. That does not equate to devastation, it equates to evolution. Imagine outgrowing a house. You leave the rooms that fit and discover a new blueprint that supports your larger life. The new rooms will ask for different furniture, different habits, different boundaries, different rhythms. That transition is uncomfortable but not catastrophic. We will say again, do not mistake the pause for absence of progress. Progress in this phase is invisible in the ledger of transactions. It is visible in the widening of your capacity to accept what aligns. If you are faithfully tending to your inner calibration, the rewards will follow in forms that match the new you. They will feel like a homecoming rather than a rescue. Now, notice how your language shifts when you describe this time. If you find yourself describing the freeze with words like ruined, bankrupt, or failed, gently rephrase. Call it recalibration, refinement, tempering. Language shapes experience. When you call this sacred pruning, you orient your psyche toward integration rather than panic. We will offer one optional invitation to anchor this moment. If this message has landed, type once in the comments, "I am being stabilized." This is not a spell, it is a communal affirmation that helps you claim a phrase for your nervous system. Type it only if it resonates. This is the single engagement request we make here. Keep it simple, keep it real. No repetition, no ritual requirements. One small signal to yourself and to others who are listening. There are practical behaviors that will speed alignment, not by forcing outcomes, but by preparing your capacity. First, reduce friction in your day. Friction breeds tension. Swap a long list of tasks for a few essential acts that cultivate serenity. Second, cultivate an inner ledger of integrity. Do small things that feel right and refuse those that feel performative. Third, practice the art of refusal. Say no with calm, not guilt. Each refusal tightens the seal around your frequency and makes it more likely that matching channels will find you. We speak plainly about finances because the freeze often lands there first. Money is a barometer of compatibility, yet money itself is not the point. The point is the condition of your receiving apparatus. When your receiving apparatus is recalibrated to sustain abundance without anxiety, your life manifests differently. The external measures rearrange to mirror the internal stability. We will not promise exact sums or guarantee timelines. That would be false precision. We will promise attentiveness. If you steward your alignment, the field will steward openings that match your coherence. You may feel the impulse to ask for prescriptive steps you can perform to guarantee movement. We will not give such prescriptions. Instead, we give orientation. Strengthen your nervous system, create boundaries, learn to recognize the inner yes, refuse motion as a substitute for reception. These are the core competencies of your new economy. Some of you will hear the phrase irreversible and feel panicked, as if being irreversibly changed means losing what you loved. We will soften that fear. Irreversible in this context means you cannot return to the previous vibration without great effort and dissonance. It also means you cannot unknow what you have learned. The clarity gained will rewrite criteria for what you accept. You gain sophistication, you lose nothing essential, you gain discernment. There will be moments when you are tested by the external world, when scarcity pressures mount, or when trusted structures rattle. In those moments, practice the pause. Name the reflex to move, return to breath, reaffirm your values. These are small, steady actions that recalibrate the system from the inside out. Do not confuse dramatic action with necessary action. Often, the most powerful thing you can do in compression is nothing visible at all. Hold your frequency. We also want to clear a boundary. Do not substitute channeling for professional advice. If you have legal, medical, or financial questions that require concrete expertise, seek appropriate counsel. Channeling supports orientation and energetic clarity. It does not replace the practical tools you may need. Be wise about this. Use the guidance for inner recalibration and pair it with competent professionals for the nuts and bolts of life. As your system aligns, you will notice a recalibration of relationships. People who matched your old energy may not meet you where you are now. That is natural. Some relationships will deepen in new ways. Others will naturally withdraw. This is not a moral judgment. It is selection by resonance. Grieve what you need to grieve, then notice who remains. The people who stay will be those who can meet you in your new frequency, rather than demanding that you perform a familiar identity for them. There is a subtle but powerful test you can use when a new opportunity arrives. Imagine accepting it fully and then project forward 3 months. Observe not the external gains, but your internal climate. Are you still calm? Do you feel integrated? If the image produces tightness, it is likely an offer that will demand your old performance. If it produces openness, it is likely an offer that matches your recalibrated field. We are mindful of the fear that sometimes accompanies these changes, fear that you will be left without resources while your system aligns. That fear is understandable. The field does not expect you to neglect basic survival measures. Make pragmatic choices to keep your life functional. The point is to avoid sacrificing your recalibration for short-term relief that would cost you long-term coherence. This is the tightrope. Care for yourself materially while refusing to trade your frequency for temporary comfort. Some of you will receive small, precise synchronicities in the days ahead, a call from an unexpected source, a line from a book that lands like instruction, a meeting that aligns without you having to force it. These are not guaranteed for everyone, and they are not mechanics to be relied upon as proof. When they arrive, notice whether they fit your inner yes. If they do, they are invitations. Receive them with the discernment you are cultivating. We will now describe a narrative you might tell yourself, the one that sneaks in during sleepless hours. I must prove I deserve this new life. That is the old story masquerading as humility. The recalibration teaches a new story. You already belong to what you are becoming. Your belonging is not a reward for performance. It is a natural consequence of the frequency you now inhabit. Embrace that truth gently. Let it sink into your bones. At this point, your practice is largely interior work with external prudence. Interior work builds capacity. External prudence keeps you safe. Both are necessary. The field rewards steady inner work more than dramatic outer moves. Over time, those inner practices accumulate into a different outward reality. Now, take a moment to imagine your timeline as a river. There is a point upstream where the river turns, where tributaries merge and the current changes course. That turn is what you are approaching. The compression you feel is the narrowing of the river bed, preparing the water for a cleaner, stronger flow. The old meanders, the patterns that once kept you afloat, will no longer serve the new channel. There is grief in leaving the old banks, but there is also relief that you will not be forced to swim in waters that erode your edges. We have named the mechanisms. We have offered practices. We have given you signs to watch. Now we will deepen into the felt experience you may be carrying, the tension between urgency and patience. This is the crucible of maturation. Urgency is often an echo of a younger survival mechanism, an anxious scaffolding built in times when scarcity reigned. Patience is not passive waiting. It is a disciplined trust that your inner environment will mature in a way that allows for sustainable receiving. There are the moments, too, when the mind invents evidence of doom in order to catalyze action. You might notice an inner script: if I do not act now, I will be left behind. That script is fear. It is not strategy. When it rises, pause. Ask, what is the smallest next step that preserves my coherence? Often that step is not grand. It is a phone call with calm, an email sent with integrity, a short report completed. Small acts of aligned movement are different from frantic displays of motion. In the coming days, you will be tempted by social pressure to narrate your life in the old format: achievements, visible markers, hustle tales. Resist the urge to perform your healing. Healing rarely needs a billboard. The field prefers the quiet work that strengthens your core. Save your declarations for the small circle that understands and respects your new cadence. We are not indifferent to the emotional roller coaster this phase brings. It is okay to be angry about doors that closed. It is okay to be afraid that the safety net frayed. It is okay to miss the old version of your life. All of that is part of the compost that fertilizes your growth. Let the emotions move through you without making them your identity. Feel them fully, but do not build a strategy around them. Before we move to the closing practice for this transmission, receive one last clarifying line. You are not stuck. The word stuck is a mental verdict, not a cosmic diagnosis. The field has not frozen you in place to punish you. It has paused the old flow so a purer, more aligned stream can form. Repeat to yourself, I am being stabilized. Let the phrase anchor. When the mind insists you are stuck, return to the phrase. Allow it to retune your nervous system. Now align your posture in whatever way suits you, seated, standing, hands wherever they rest naturally. Bring your attention to the center of your chest. Breathe in slowly. As you exhale, imagine releasing the old timeline from your hold. Breathe in again and hold that breath for a beat, holding the frequency you are claiming. On the exhale, let go of the old ways of proving. Keep your attention on the steady pulse under your ribs. Feel what it is to hold a frequency rather than perform for one. You are being stabilized. You are not stuck. The compression is purposeful. The alignment is forming. Movement will follow in a way that honors your new frequency. If this message resonates, if you felt a recognition in your body as you listened, consider staying connected. Subscribe to receive further transmissions and practical sessions we offer to help you integrate this recalibration. There is a deeper practice circle linked below for those who want guided, steady work. The invitation is optional and supportive. For now, rest in the fact that your path has been recalibrated, overnight, quietly, irrevocably, and the role of this moment is to listen, hold, and prepare. We will continue. The next part of this transmission will map the precise stages of nervous system stabilization and offer further gentle tests you can use to tell the difference between true alignment and tempting imitation. Stay with the feeling you cultivated here. Keep the phrase with you: compression, alignment, movement. Keep your breath steady. Keep your yes close. There is more to say about how the field reconfigures financial architecture without coercing your life into risky decisions, about the small signs that precede meaningful offers, and about the subtle practices that refine your capacity to receive. Those instructions are practical and tender. They require time and space to integrate. When you are ready, we will walk there together. For now, hold the stillness until it becomes alignment. Keep your heart open to the soundless turning that is already underway. Now we move into the fine architecture of stabilization, the subtle, incremental recalibration of your nervous system that turns compression into reliable alignment. We will describe the stages you are in so you can notice them in real time, and we will give you precise, non-prescriptive tests to distinguish true alignment from tempting imitation. Stage 1. recognition, and containment. This is the immediate aftermath of the tuning change. You feel disoriented. The field has narrowed so that only what is compatible can interact with you. That narrowing can feel like absence because the habitual inflows vanishingly recede. The purpose of this stage is not to punish, it is to contain, to prevent any new input from gluing itself to the old scarcity story. You may experience flashes of panic, sudden doubts, or urgency to do something. Recognize these as signals, not commands. Name the sensation. Say internally, "This is containment." Naming reduces its momentum. Stage 2. Tempering the vessel. Here, the nervous system learns new tolerances. Sleep patterns shift, appetite may adjust, your sensitivity to noise can increase or decrease. The field is testing whether your internal environment can hold a higher frequency without shattering. During tempering, you will have moments of clarity and moments of exhaustion. That is normal. The work is to tend the container, not to fill it. Gentle practices, regular rest, shorter lists of essential tasks, steady meals are not indulgences, they are calibration. Resist the narrative that you must do more to prove you belong. Stage 3. Discernment training. Your capacity to receive sharpens. Offers begin to arrive as smaller, quieter impulses. Your job is to practice the inner tests that distinguish true matches from seductive mimics. Cultivate the muscle of pause. When an opportunity enters, slow the loop. Breathe, bring attention inward, and ask the 3 tests we have named before. Allow time for a bodily response. The body will answer with a soft yes or a subtle recoil. The more you practice, the clearer the signal becomes. Stage 4. Field consolidation. Here, the field locks in a set of residences. Small, reliable patterns of receiving begin to appear, not necessarily spectacular but consistent. Your baseline calm grows. Movement is no longer an emergency measure, it is an integration of invitation and capacity. Offers align with rhythms you can hold. The world begins to arrange itself around a different tempo. Stage 5. Channel opening. This is the emergence of sustainable flow. The channels that open now require less frantic motion and more presence. They will ask for your integrity, your boundaries, your clarity of intent, not your exhaustion. Movement here feels like recognition. It asks for less proving and more participation. How to tell true alignment from imitation. 5 practical discernments. 1. The body test. This is the primary litmus. When you imagine accepting an offer fully, attend to the small physical feedback, a warming ease in the chest, a softening in the belly, a sense of settling in the bones. These are positive signs. Tightness behind the sternum, a clenched throat, a sense of racing are signals of misalignment. Practice this test with low-stakes offers until it becomes automatic. The body is wiser than the anxious mind. 2. The time projection test. Imagine the offer 3 months forward and observe your internal climate. Do you still feel steady? If tension appears in that mental simulation, the offer will likely demand old performances. If openness and ease remain, it is likely compatible. 3. The minimal action check. Ask yourself, what is the smallest next step that preserves my coherence? If the smallest step requires you to shrink or perform, decline. If it asks for a small, aligned act, proceed. 4. The relational mirror. Notice whether the offer asks you to change who you are at core or whether it invites you to enact your values more fully. A true match will ask for integrity, not for reinvention into lesser safety. 5. The frequency fit. Does the offer feel like recognition rather than rescue? Recognition sustains, rescue temporarily soothes and then reactivates scarcity. Favor recognition. Refinements you can practice daily. simple, repeatable, and safe. Micro boundaries. Begin with one tiny no each day that protects your energy. A single decline refines your field. It teaches the world how to meet you. Do not explain yourself extensively. A calm, steady refusal is sufficient. Diaphragmatic presence. 3 times a day, pause for 3 even breaths into the diaphragm. Make the exhale longer than the inhale. This simple habit trains your nervous system to move out of frantic reflex and into receptive steadiness. The one-question pause. Before responding to any financial request or agreement, ask yourself one clarifying question inwardly. Does my body say yes? Wait for the answer. If you feel hesitation, delay your response until clarity. The minimal ledger. Keep a short, energy-focused ledger rather than a micromanaged budget for the purposes of this work. Note 3 daily items that reinforced your calm and 3 that drained you. Over time, this ledger reveals patterns of coherence versus fragmentation. The discretion practice. Hold some of your progress private. Intense outer narratives often pull you back into performing. Let some of your alignment be a quiet, internal achievement. This will deepen the recalibration. What recalibration does to your financial architecture and how to steward it. Understand finances here as energetic terrain more than a ledger alone. When your frequency shifts, the architecture that once supported you, certain clients, familiar income streams, immediate visibility tactics, may not fit. This does not mean you will be left without resources. It means resources will begin to reconfigure into forms that are compatible with your new capacity. These forms might be steadier, smaller but more consistent, more collaborative, or more residual, flowing without the same extraction of your vitality. A prudent stewarding principle. Prepare your life materially with intention, not panic. Keep sensible measures to preserve safety while you refuse to resupply old scarcity patterns. This might mean negotiating terms that honor your boundaries instead of accepting work that requires unsustainable hours. It might mean tending to small, reliable income streams that do not demand your exhaustion. The emphasis is on sustainability, not spectacle. Psychological sabotage and how to work with it. You will encounter internal voices designed to drag you back into familiar calculations. Common scripts include, "You must prove you deserve this," "This pause is a sign of failure," or "If I pause, I will be forgotten." Treat these voices like weather. Notice them, name them, and do not build a strategy from them. Use practices of externalization. Write the thought down and place it in a past patterns column. Then write a counterstatement rooted in calibration. I am learning to accept without proving. Repeat it until the reflex loses steam. Social pressure will also test you. People who evaluated you by output may demand visibility. You do not need to justify your recalibration. A gentle boundary works better than an argument. Say simply, "I am focusing on steady alignment right now." Ground your refusal in values. Do not resort to defenses. Community and containment. Recalibration is not solitary by default. Seek a small circle that respects discretion and steady practice. This can be a few friends, a mentor, or a small group trained to hold frequency rather than to amplify drama. When choosing such a container, prioritize steadiness over charisma. The ideal group models boundary, respect for rest, and consistency in practice. If you do not yet have such a circle, cultivate one relationship at a time. A single trustworthy witness who understands your process can make the journey far less lonely. Subtle signs that meaningful offers are approaching. Repetition of a theme. You may notice a concept or phrase appearing in different places, a book passage, a conversation, a song lyric. These repetitions are invitations for you to pay attention. Quiet confirmations. small, unexpected alignments that require little effort, like a timely connection or a brief conversation that lands easily. Decreasing urgency in your own responses. When you begin to respond to opportunities from calm rather than from scarcity, the field is opening. An internal resizing. You wake with a different baseline, a bit more spacious, a little less reactive. This internal shift often precedes external movement. Handling partial returns and tests. Occasionally, an old pattern will appear to return. A short contract, a client reaching out, a transient payment. These are not failures, they are tests. Before saying yes, run the offer through your filters. Imagine the 3-month projection. Ask your body. If you accept, do so with clear boundaries that protect your coherence. Consider accepting on new terms, shorter commitments, clearer boundaries, or trial periods that allow you to assess alignment without overcommitting. The art of integration, daily practices that accumulate into capacity. Integration is not a single event. It is 1,000 small, stewarded moments. Here are practices that accumulate. The morning calibration, 3 minutes upon waking to register breath and set an orientation phrase. Compression, to alignment, to movement. Keep it short, keep it steady. The midday checkpoint, a 2-minute pause mid-afternoon to check baseline calm. Adjust with a short walk, water, or breath as needed. The nightly journal, 2 brief lines noting where you held a boundary and where you yielded to reflex. Over weeks, the patterns instruct. The weekly refinement, 1 small decision each week that honors your emergent capacity, a boundary, a refusal, a short window of rest. How to guard against premature amplification. When a small win arrives, the inner urgency to announce, expand, and replicate can be strong. This impulse often neutralizes the careful field building you've done. Instead of amplifying outward, internalize the win. Make small tests. Let the win prove itself within the container of your life before making it public. This protects you from confusing momentum for coherence. On grief and the dignity of letting go. Grief deserves attention. When a pathway closes, allow yourself a genuine farewell ritual. Write a letter to the version of your life you are leaving, say the truths you need to say, and then commit the letter to a symbolic release, a drawer, a box, or a private burn, safe and lawful. Grief unclenches the hand that clung to the old, freeing you for the new. Respect the rhythm of mourning. Impatience with grief only tightens the field. A brief exercise you can use whenever panic threatens. Stop what you are doing. Bring your hands to the body where you can feel a pulse, chest, throat, or temple. Breathe in for a count that feels comfortable, hold for a beat, and exhale longer. Name 1 value, for example, ease or integrity. Repeat the phrase, "Ease is my direction." Do this 3 times. It is an anchor that reorients the system away from frantic motion. Working with money as a measure, not a master. If money is your barometer, let it be a guide, not an authority. Observe how money interacts with your field. Does a payment arrive that honors your boundaries? Does an offer require you to perform into exhaustion? Use money as feedback, not as a sole determinant of worth. Your worth is inherent to your frequency, not contingent on a bank statement. When you feel tempted to bargain with the universe. Bargaining appears as, if I do X, then the flow must return. This is an old pattern. Bargaining keeps you within scarcity's architecture. Instead, practice offers of alignment, small acts that express your values freely without the expectation of immediate reward. The field responds more reliably to steady offerings of integrity than to dramatic bargains. The role of curiosity in calibration. Curiosity softens the edges of fear. Ask, what is being asked of me now, rather than, what must I fix? Curiosity invites inquiry rather than judgment. It opens a space where discernment can operate without the pressure of prove or perish. Handling setbacks without abandoning coherence. Setbacks will occur. They are not evidence of failure, they are data. When a setback arrives, return to breath, journal what happened without blame, and identify one small recalibrating action. Perhaps that is an extra hour of rest or a clear boundary conversation. Keep responses small and steady. Large, reactive corrections usually create more turbulence than they settle. A few clarifying commitments you can make today. I will pause before responding to offers that trigger urgency. I will practice one micro-boundary daily. I will choose rest when my system demands it, rather than performing rest as a badge. I will cultivate one small circle of steady witnesses. I will return to the phrase compression, alignment, movement when panic rises. These commitments are not rules, they are disciplines that refine your capacity. The parts of life that will likely shift first. Often, the most visible edges will change first. Hours, public visibility, the need for constant proving. Later, deeper elements reconfigure. Long-term partnerships, creative expression, the way you measure success. Do not fear these changes. They are the necessary pruning that allows for a more vital life to take shape. Warnings about common misuses. Do not outsource discernment entirely to the field or to others who claim to channel for you. Use guidance as orientation. Maintain responsibility for practical decisions. If you require specialized legal, medical, or financial advice, consult appropriate professionals. Channeling supports your inner clarity. It does not absolve practical stewardship. Preparing for the moment when movement begins. When coherent movement begins, there will be an instinct to accelerate. Resist the urge to collapse the field by overcommitting. Receive offers with the same tests you've practiced. Accept steadily. Let integration remain the primary metric rather than speed. Movement that arrives too quickly may be a false flow. Movement that arrives with measured ease is the one you can sustain. A final practical alignment exercise. Settle into a comfortable posture. Bring hands to your lap or chest. Breathe 3 even, slow breaths into the belly. On the third inhale, imagine the field around you tightening like a magnet drawing in true matches. Hold the breath for a gentle beat, feeling the frequency you claim. Release the breath slowly, letting go of the old timeline. Whisper or think this phrase, I am being stabilized. Allow the words to resonate in the chest. Repeat once more, longer. Sit quietly for as long as you need. Notice the aftertaste of steadiness and store it. We will close with clarity that the Arcturians are confirming now. This shift was not an accident. It was an intentional retuning. The pause was a necessary surgical narrowing to keep your future from being grafted onto old scarcity. That narrowing is protective. It prepares you to receive what truly matches the frequency you now inhabit. We do not promise specific sums or immediate miracles. We promise alignment and increasing probability of channels that honor your coherence. We urge you to pair inner work with practical prudence. We urge gentle, disciplined boundary work. We urge patience rooted in real practices. Remember the progression and let it be your map. Compression, alignment, movement. Keep the phrase in your pocket. When confusion returns, return to the breath. When panic rises, name the reflex. When offers arrive, test them with your body, your 3-month projection, and your values. You are being stabilized. You are not stuck. This change is irreversible in its effect on your criteria for receiving. The old ways will feel wrong to you, even if they are tempting. The Arcturians observed this shift and assisted in its calibration. Your path was retuned overnight so that the life that follows will demand less sacrifice and more coherence. Now, again, align your posture. Breathe in once more. Hold the frequency you choose, and on the exhale, release any residue of proving. Feel the steady pulse beneath your ribs, and let it be your compass. Keep the phrase with you as you move into the day. Compression, alignment, movement. Keep your breath steady. Keep your yes close. The Arcturians recalibrated your path overnight. Pay close attention.